Welcome back to the channel. Today we have a new build. It's a 2017 GMC Terrain Denali. Of course it was dead at the auction. Now this one came from West Virginia, so it's actually really clean underneath. Almost looks like a Texas vehicle. It's had about 10 hours on the way home to charge, so let's see if it starts. $34,884 miles. Pretty low miles for a 5-year-old car. It's windy and cold out here, so it runs and drives. Let's get it down to the shop, get it unloaded, and look at it inside. So we'll pull our jumper cables off of here. The battery's charged up. We just put the power wire underneath the terminal, the jump starting terminal. And the ground, we just found a nut and bolt up there and clamped it in there. Throw our cover back on. Somebody's been here before. Cut our rocker apart, so I'm guessing this door opens. I'm missing a bolt. Well, at least they put it back on. The door's no good, but we do have a door panel that we're going to need. Door handle. It's now the only part. Scott's Terrain Emporium has a regular SLE door. Need some airbags. Looks like somebody already got to it with a dull razor blade. Need a seat airbag and a seat cover, or we could sew it up like they did on my last one, I guess. Couple curtain airbags. We need our seat belts. I have to send those out to My Airbags and have them rebuilt. Looks like we're gonna need a center post, piece of the rocker. Not sure if we'll need an inner rocker. We'll have to get this apart and see just how bad it is in there. The front door, that looks like it. We do need a headliner. That one's torn from when the airbag went off. Usually the airbags come out and don't tear it up, but every once in a while they do. Scott's Terrain Emporium happens to have one, so that'll save me some money. And we'll have to check to make sure that those adjusters are good in the seatbelt. They're probably broken. That's it. Just 2 doors, a center post, and a bunch of airbag stuff. So it's got low miles and it's pretty well loaded. Well, it does have the boomer package, which is the sunroof and navigation delete. The sunroof, because in 1970 they had an Oldsmobile and the sunroof leaked and they'll never own another car with a sunroof again. And the navigation because, well, those confounded electronics are just too hard to learn. They still have the flip phones. So it's kind of weird that it doesn't have navigation. Sunroofs, I get it. A lot of people don't like them. I'm not one of those people. So we'll finish off the job of the last guys with our dull razor blade. Cut the rest of this airbag out of our way. in the pile. Cut the one out on the other side. That razor blade seemed to go through the bag pretty quick. Maybe I accidentally grabbed a sharp one. In the pile. So now we'll pull the rear door off. They did put it back on here and plug it in, so we'll have to disconnect our plug. The boot was off, so we'll just press the tabs in. Once we get it out of here, we can unplug it. We are going to need this harness because it is different than the door that I have. So we can unbolt our door. We don't have to take the door check out. That was already disconnected. I like it when shops put cars back together because you do get those little odds and ends. Sometimes you really do get a missing door. And then you end up having to buy a door panel, wiring harness, door handle, all that stuff that I'll be able to use on this door. Now we'll take the front door off. We're the first ones to do this, so we have to disconnect the wiring harness and the door check. And we'll pull the bolts out of the hinges. We're going to pull these out of the door side. These are self-aligning. If our hinges aren't bent, we'll be able to put the door back up. It's really hard to get those hinges out of there with the fender still on. That's why we're doing it this way. If the fender's off, it works pretty much just like the rear door did. We don't have to drop our door check down in there since we're doing this with the door open. You start at the bottom, work your way up. That last bolt up on the top will hold the door in place. And take that out so you're not trying to hold the door the whole time. And we'll go set the door off to the side. Now we'll pull our seats out. We have to disconnect the seat belt. We unbolt it. We have to push the seat back. It's all the way up. Now we can have enough slack that we can pull the seat belt down and unclip it. We'll put our seat back forward so that we can unbolt the seat. The bolts are in the back. Pull our headrests out, make it a little easier to handle. Press one side. The other side has a hole that you can put a pick in and it releases the clips that hold it in. We can unbolt the two bolts in the back and unplug it. Now you just lift up the back, slide the seat towards the back, and the anchors in the front pop right out. And you take the seat out and try not to scratch the dash up with seat tracks. It's easier said than done sometimes. So we'll pull this B-pillar trim out. Try not to break all the clips. Probably will. These are not friendly. I try to pull the trim off and leave the clips in the metal. And I can just press the tabs and save the clips later. I try popping them out, they usually crack. Hey, found some candy. Old lady car. Explains the low miles. Now we can pull our sill plate out. Little wiggle and pull. These clips usually come out pretty friendly. Then we have to unplug the wire for the light. Toss that in our pile. Now we'll do the driver's seat. Unbolt the seat belt. Unfortunately, this seat was in short person mode, so it was all the way up and all the way forward, which means there's really no way for us to take the slack out of the seat belt to disconnect it. It's really no good way to do it. We're going to have to get creative. Try stretching a little bit. Sometimes you can get enough, but this thing really was as stretched as it would go. So we're going to pull the B-pillar trim down. We're going to do this a little backwards. Pull the screw out of it. We'll pull the lower piece off. I'm just trying to get this upper piece off. And just kind of squeeze it past the headliner. Not like we're going to hurt the headliner. The razor blade wasn't so dull, I'd just cut the headliner out around it, but that'd take me a week. So we'll pull it back enough. Try to move the plastic that slides out of the way so that we can get to the bolt for the seatbelt. And we managed to make ourselves a little door and smack ourselves in the head with the trim. But now that the seatbelt's down off the anchor up there, we have a little slack, we can disconnect it from the seat. If I were just replacing the seatbelts, I'd go ahead and cut them, but since I'm going to have these rebuilt, I don't want to destroy the webbing. Gonna unbolt our seat. And unplug it. I said you can unplug it. There you go. Just tip it forward and lift it out. And this one we have to try to get out without scratching the door panel, the dashboard, and the rear door. It's like a game of Operation with a seat. It's like grown-up Operation. Now we can unbolt our rear seat, otherwise known as a boat anchor. This thing is heavy and awkward. Not a fan. There's two bolts in the front. Slide it forward. I'll pull the little cover off of here. This is actually an option because GM is cheap. They want to squeeze another 150 bucks out of you. So there's just a couple pins similar to the headrest. You just push a pick in there and release them. It slides out. And we'll pull the spare tire cover off. Then we get to the rear bolts on the rear seat. Unbolt that. Throw the bolts in the bucket. And we'll fold the backs of the seats down so it's ready to carry out of there. Now, because it's heavy, I ordered a pizza. Hopefully I can get the pizza girl to show up and do the heavy lifting. Maybe, just maybe, I'll even get a pizza, but I'm not counting on it. We'll pop the little covers off for our cargo net in the back and pull the bolts out. Then we can pull the lower trim off. And then we'll pull this quarter trim off. At least the lower half. Just a little wiggle and pull. These clips are pretty friendly, they don't break. Some come with, some stay in the quarter. You take off the ones that stay in the quarter and put them back in the trim panel and reinstall it later. I'll do the same thing on the other side. I have to unplug the cigarette lighter on this side. 12 volt power supply, I guess. I don't think anyone's lighting cigarettes in the way back here. Throw that clip in the bucket. I have one bucket because I've done enough of these that I can tell you where every bolt goes. So everything goes in one pile and I sort it out and don't have any leftover bolts. Of course, that might be because I lost a bunch, but we won't talk about that. So now we'll pull the upper trim off. 2 screws up in the top behind the little caps. And just a little wiggle and pull and it comes out of there. Make sure that we can clear the deployment command out of here. That way we know if we have to send the module in or not. Look at all that good stuff. That one. So as long as we clear out the codes, all the other ones will come back. I don't care. As long as that one doesn't, we're good. I did have one of these that wouldn't clear. I had to send the module out to be cleared. It was the only one I did. You guys didn't get to see it though. And it's gone. This one cleared. I don't know why that one wouldn't do it. I tried like 4 different scanners. Still wouldn't do it. Okay. We'll keep going. So now we're going to pull our center console out of here. We don't need to get to the airbag module since we were able to clear it, but in order to get the carpeting out, we need to pull the console. And I want to take the carpeting out because it's extremely flammable. Not the carpeting, but the padding. And I don't need a repeat of the last Terrain I lit on fire. So we'll pull the bolts out after we pull the side cover off, disconnect the shifter cable. I'm going to pull these little triangles off the side. They're a little rough. 4 screws behind those. Pull the cover off this side of the console. I hear money. Woohoo! Quarter. Now we can get to our bolts. There's one that pulls the console forward, and there's 2 in the side. There's one in the back underneath the little cover. Pop the cover open and pull the bolt out. Do that one on the other side in the back. And now our console is ready to come out. Well, not totally ready. We're going to slide it back a little bit so we can get to the wiring harness. So we'll unplug the harness and the USB wire. We'll fish our shifter out of there. And now our console's out of here. And there's the module. If we needed to get to it, that's where it was. We'll pull our sill plate off the driver's side. Just enough to get this lower B-pillar trim out of here. We'll fish the seatbelt out. Now we can start unbolting our seatbelt. There's one bolt in the bottom. We've already taken the bolt out of the top. Let's unplug our pretensioner. And I'm lazy and didn't feel like getting a trim clip pliers, so we'll make a pick work. So we'll either remove this little push rivet or stab ourselves in the finger and then go get the right tool. Now we can pull the B pillar trim off the passenger side. Pop the little cap open and take the screw out of it. And fish the seatbelt through. Buzz the seatbelt off the adjuster, and neither adjuster survived the accident, so we're gonna have to replace those. They're about 35 bucks a piece. Maybe I'll have to see if Scott's Terrain Emporium has any. We'll unplug our pretensioner wire and unbolt the bottom of the seatbelt. Lift it out of the tab, and it's ready to ship. I'll unplug the little perch for the seat harness. There's one nut on each side and then it clips in. Before 16 they just clipped in there. After 16 and 17 they decided they needed a bolt to hold those down. I guess the earlier versions came flying out of the car or something. Pull our sill plate off of here. And lug nut sockets aren't just for lug nuts anymore. A 21mm is a 21mm. Now we can pull the tensioner off this passenger seat. We're going to have to send it out to be rebuilt. We'll pop our little wire out of here and feed it through the little rubber boot. At least we'll try. little shorter than it's supposed to be. So we'll pop the cover off this side, expose our bolt, or nut, I guess it is. Spin it out of there. Take the electrical plug off. Pull the little orange safety clip out and then pull the connector off. And then fish the tensioner out of there. This one's short as well. Now we can pull our A-pillar trim off. There's a little plastic hanger up on top that keeps it from flying across the car when the airbag goes off. So I'm just gotta twist that until it comes out of there. There's one plug for the speaker down below. Do the same thing on the driver's side. We're going to throw this into our box. Yep, that big box. It's got all the interior in it. Keeps it all organized. We'll pull our adjuster out of here. It's going to be in our way when we're working on this pillar, and we need to replace it anyway. The pizza girl's here. She could do some heavy lifting. Might as well. It's not like I got a pizza. If I ever get a pizza, I might feel bad about making her do the heavy lifting. Okay, I guess I'll take it from here. She's just gonna follow me and supervise. So now we can fold up the carpeting, take it out of here. Fish all the wiring harnesses out of it, pull it around the ductwork. That's that padding that's extremely flammable. So we'll put it far, far away from what we're welding. Pack up our seatbelts. Ship them out to my airbags. I already printed off my prepaid shipping label, so I just got to drop it off at FedEx and I should have these things back pretty quick. Looks like Mr. Spotty's getting a little paid time off. You guys remember our Terrain? We used the door on the other side, rear end, for our 2016 Terrain. Now we're going to use these two doors and our center post. That's pretty much all that's left on this thing. So let's get our parts off. So somebody's been here before. I already had this door off once. Door check's already in the door. Wiring harness is already unplugged, so all we have to do is unbolt the hinges. We'll take the hinges off the body in case I do need them. Then we'll just struggle with changing them when they're on our new Terrain because the fender's still on the Terrain. It's not quite this easy. The rear door, this is the first time it's coming off. So pull the boot off, press all the tabs in there, and we can pull the plug out. Now we'll put the boot back on the plug so that this wiring harness is all ready to go in the garbage. Not sure why I wasted my time doing this. It's not like I don't have 100 of these harnesses laying around. Unbolt our door check. Unbolt the door side. Then we'll drop our door check in the door. Of course it got caught at the top and didn't fall all the way down. Now we can unbolt our door hinges. And lift our door off. And there goes the door check to the bottom of the door. Now we're going to pull our headliner off. I already had this out once before, so it's pretty much just sitting up there. It's held in with magnets, and there's two clips in the sun visors up in the front. So I'm just releasing the clips up in the front, and then just pull the magnets off. And we have to try and walk it out of here. because I seem to be hoarding terrain parts in this terrain and there's not a whole lot of room. We're trying not to get it dirty or tear it. Because new, these are about $800. Used, they pretty much don't exist. No junkyard will pull them and ship them to you. At least not without destroying them or getting them totally dirty. So we'll take our time taking it out of there. Looks like the gnome's doing all the heavy lifting. Don't worry, I got this end. I do get asked a lot of times where I get all my measurements, and here is the absolute best way you can get measurements. Measure off a known good vehicle. So I'll measure my openings, see where it lines up. The B-pillar's back just a little bit there. So now I'll measure the lower hinge. I can use all data and Mitchell, but measurements from the other vehicle are definitely beneficial. This bolt is quite a bit further back. Kind of expected that since it's twisted. You can also take measurements here that you won't get from the provided sources. They don't always have the diagonals or hinge to hinge, so you can make up your own, in addition to the ones that they provide. More measuring points, never a bad thing. We'll measure the diagonal, see how far off we are, not a surprise. I will measure up and down and see if the pillars collapsed at all. A little bit. So it seems to be isolated to the center post, that inner panel at the bottom. It's really hard to change, so we're going to straighten that if we can. That's high strength steel, so it's going to take quite a bit to move it. So that's it for this video. Next time we come back, we'll get our terrain all clamped up and we'll start pulling everything. Then we'll be ready to start cutting the parts off of our parts car and throw them onto our new terrain here. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.